Hey guys, welcome back. Agree to disagree. As always, I'm here with Michael, and we're week 7 in the NFL, so we got to go over some things, man. Some contenders or some pretenders. That's what we're gonna title this one, man. And let's start with some New York teams. We got some New York teams, the New York Jets and the New York Giants, bro. Like if you expected them to be here where they are right now, you're lying. Nobody expected these guys to be this good, and they are pretty good, man. Especially the Jets. I actually feel like the Jets. Sauce Gardner, my homie, dude. We just talked about him on the last one. The Jets are on the rise. The Giants are on the rise, but are they for real? Contenders or pretenders?
You know what, man? If you'd asked me before this last week, I would have said they were both pretenders. I would have said they were both off to good starts, winning tough games. After their wins last week, seeing how the Giants came back to beat Baltimore, I know Baltimore is giving up leads, but they came back and won that game, and they're doing it in a pretty efficient fashion. They're not really turning the ball over anymore. Daniel Jones isn't turning the ball over as much. Saquon is back, so we talked about that, him being like one of those guys like comeback player of the year, and he's got that on lock already. So, that covers the Giants, and I think they have a chance to actually be a playoff team. They beat the Packers, so I mean, they now they have that tiebreaker over the Packers. Even they have 2 games on them too, so Packers might be in trouble. That's a team we're going to get to here in a second. The Jets. Um, the Jets are more of a pretender to me. And I say this because I think once we get down the path, they're going to be a team that still finds a way to miss the playoffs. But I want to give them credit because they went out and got probably the best young rookie offensive player and best young rookie defensive player in the draft. And they hit on both of those guys. And I want to give hats off to Robert Saleh because after an 0, I think it was 0-2 start, they've come back and they've responded. And Zach Wilson even last year was a number 2 pick, and he's starting to look like maybe he deserved to be a number 2 pick. So they have a lot of young players on that team, and Garrett Wilson could be a guy that progresses at receiver. They're very young and they're going to get better. They're a team, maybe not this year, but in the next couple of years, you're going to start seeing fight for that division. Problem with them right now is they're in the Bills division, so they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. But they very well could slip into that number 7 spot.
I mean, they're 4-2. If they can beat Buffalo when they match up,
Yeah.
man, they can get. And then you got Miami. New England's actually coming back right now. They got a couple wins in a row, so that division is pretty good, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a dogfight the whole way. But I'm with you. I think the Bills will end up getting it, and the Jets. Maybe next year. Maybe next year, dude. If
Yeah.
they can get their tackle back, I know they lost Mekhi Becton again first, or maybe just get another one if you
Elijah
can't
Vera
trust this
Tucker.
dude. Yeah, like you got to get some guys up front to really protect him, and then the passing game can get going. Right now, it's a defense and running game, which if you ask Coach Sala, that's what he's about. He's a defensive-minded guy, and that's what they're doing, running the ball and playing good defense and winning games, and it's working right now. But to really beat these guys like the Josh Allens, you're gonna have to score points. And Zach Wilson's gonna have to take that next step. In order to do that, you got to protect him. I
Mm-hmm.
think they have some good talent around him at the receiver spot. Not all of them are producing, but between Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and Garrett Wilson, there's a nice little trio there. Um, so yeah, I like the Jets. Are they pretender? Are they contender? I think right now I'm with you. I think they're still a pretender. And honestly, I think, man, I want to say the Giants are too, just because I know they got the coach and the coach of the year right now. But defensively, offensively, do I expect them to sustain it? Honestly, I don't. Like, it's a nice story. I think they're going to compete because their coach
Mm-hmm.
is honestly just that dude. That coach is awesome, dude. Dayball
Yeah.
is he's
He's
got
he's a
them
real
playing
deal.
hard, dude. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
legit. So he's gonna have them competing. So the New York teams, you guys are back, but ultimately the players have got to show up on both sides. And yeah, you dropped it awesome this year, the Jets. But like I said, your offensive and line isn't great. So like your team as a whole isn't, like I said, you got to be able to be a complete team to be a real contender, and they're not quite there yet, but they're fucking knocking on the door. Giants, I honestly feel like they their coach is covering up some holes, man, because they have more holes on that roster than even the Jets do. I feel.
Yeah.
But their coach is making up for it. And like defensively, their linemen, you see Thibodeau over there crying after the game, like how much it means to him.
Mhm.
That goes a long way. It
Means
means something to
something.
these guys that,
Mhm.
that are getting paid, and that's all coaching. So he's got the coach of the year on lock so far. But to sit there and say that they're going to beat even Dallas or Philadelphia in their own division, I don't think they are. Like those teams are deep and they can beat you in multiple ways. So I just think they're a little bit more complete right now. The NFC, I will say, the NFC is a little bit more open for the Giants, and they have a better start and a better record. So if they want to get in the playoffs, it's easier for them. The AFC is tough. So
Mhm.
Giants, ultimately, guys, good start, but I got you guys as both pretenders next year. Next
Yeah, I
year.
mean, right now in New York, everybody's pretty happy right now in New York, right? So Jets and Giants both going off. Yankees just progress to the ALCS. I mean, right now in New York, I mean Brooklyn, the Nets look like they're going to be a pretty tough team in the Eastern Conference in basketball. So New York, hey, the people in that area right now are really happy. I mean, if it wasn't for the Knicks, I mean they would be gung ho all the way. But man, I he talked about the offensive line with the Jets, man, and yeah, they're not a complete offensive line, but they have Elijah Vera Tucker, who I think is like the number one PFF guard in football right now. They did lose Mekhi Becton, so I mean, he was a pretty good young tackle. But yeah, I mean, as far as this year, he's not going to come back. So I mean, they're going to have holes to fill. So I still agree with Pretender there. In that conference in the NFC, I mean, they've already beat the Packers. So, I mean, that's a big win. They did lose to the Cowboys, and I would think that the Eagles are probably going to, be too much for them to handle also. But there's 7 teams that make the playoffs this year, and I could definitely see the Giants making it in as a 7 seed because they already have 5 wins. You're really only 3 or 4 more away to be in that 7 seed, and the teams they've already beaten will give them that edge. So yeah, those are and you said Dable. Dable is the coach of the year. Robert Saleh is right behind there. And then as far and going down the list, I mean, you can talk about
Mike
KO and stuff
McCarthy,
like that,
man.
but that's a
Everyone
pretty big
shits on
drop.
Mike McCarthy, but Mike McCarthy he should actually get some love for Coach of the Year. Like
I put
everyone
Mike
hates on him,
McCarthy. I put Mike
but
McCarthy in the same like breath as like Kevin O'Connell right now because you know
he
those
doesn't have
teams.
his quarterback. He did it with the backup.
Yeah, but both those teams have a lot of. Well, look what they did. They lost. They lost pretty handily in week 1 with his quarterback. So I mean, I think both those teams have a lot of talent on the offense and defensive side of the ball. That's why we're not mentioning those 2 4-1 and 5 or 4-2 5-1 teams because these teams were projected to do nothing. And we were talking about them to be at the bottom tier of the league, and right now they're not. And Brian Dable, what he's done in New York is pretty extraordinary. They were a really bad team, and they don't have a number 1 receiver. They don't really have a number 1 option behind Saquon, and they're 5-1, dude, and they're beating good teams. So
Right.
Dable is just on another tier. What Robert Saleh, how he has those guys fighting in New York is pretty extraordinary. So I think those 2 guys are up there, and then after that, there's everybody else. Maybe Nathaniel
Like
Hackett, could get
Doug
a.
Peterson. Doug
Huh?
Peterson, I think, is up. Doug Peterson might be a candidate. He's got
Yeah,
the
maybe.
Jaguars playing pretty good.
Yeah, maybe Nathaniel Hackett. He's been doing pretty good there in Denver. So
Yeah, that fool, he's got like another 2 or 3 weeks, and
if
he's
that,
getting out of
dude, if that, I mean, one more bad loss, and I would just I would cut the tie now.
there.
But
Right.
hey,
But I
Waltons,
mean,
listen up.
those are some teams that are unexpected that are we didn't expect to be here. How about some 500 teams, some teams that we are struggling a little bit, including
I
my squad, my Bucks. We got who else? The Bengals.
I
We
think we need to
got
start
the
with the Super Bowl
Ravens.
champ. We need to start with the Super Bowl champs, man.
Let's
I
do
think
it.
it's only right to start with them. The Rams, there is something wrong in LA. They just beat up on a Carolina team that's not good at all. Probably the worst team in football. Um, it, Something is wrong in LA, and it might be Sean McVay. It might be Sean McVay, and I like Sean McVay. Like he has his coaching tree of like all these offense and relationships. This is the first time.
Yeah, they've won him a lot of games in the past. Now that it's on him, now what?
This is going to be the first time I'm going to admit that you're right. Maybe it was the coordinators, and it wasn't necessarily Sean McVay. You see, I was watching that game, and every once in a while they were, showing pictures of Sean McVay, and he's sitting over there just, and they're winning. That guy doesn't seem happy. I mean, you're not hearing about Aaron Donald just blowing up every play. You're not hearing it. I mean, you hear about Cooper Kupp because he gets 30 targets a game. Something's wrong in LA. There's a disconnect somewhere. And I can see them. I mean, right now they're in a really kind of a bad division, and it's getting worse with San Francisco's injuries. So I think the Rams still have a good chance to win that division, only because it's going to be the best pile of crap come out of the
Hopkins is back. Yeah, watch Arizona if Robbie Anderson gets acclimated. They just can't stop nobody. Yeah, you're right. That division isn't too good, man.
Yeah. So, but LA, dude, is just, if it's not Cooper Kupp, it's nobody. And I mean, now there's Cam Akers. I mean, he's a good young running back. He has differences with the coach. I mean, how much is that the player? How much is that the coach? I mean, right now I'm gonna put it on McVay.
Dude, how do you get rid of a Robert Woods?
Yeah.
Like, how do you not, if you don't like Robert Woods, who's just a football playing dude, man, like, you get rid of him, and you don't even extend or offer OBJ after what? You don't win that Super Bowl without OBJ, period. And they lowball him. Like, I seen this dude walking around when they would win in their little meetings, and he just paces back and forth. Keep that camera on me. Let me keep talking. Like, dude, the players play for you, man. And you have these coordinators that helped you out so much. He needs some humble pie, and I hope he's fucking getting it right now.
And
that's all I'll say.
Campbell commercials and everything else.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, Sean McGay. That's my nickname for him. Call me a hater, whatever. I don't care. That's what I see when I see that guy. Like I like the aggression when he would go for it, but where's it at now? Where's all that at now? It's gone. So ultimately, it's the players play. Like coaches, you got to put them in the right situation, obviously. But dude, maybe his ego got the better of him because you let all these players go. Von Miller, like you throw the fucking Brinks truck at him if you need to. OBJ, like you don't win the Super Bowl without either of those guys, and you just let them go out of the door, and you want to pay Allen Robinson and then underutilize them. That was almost like I can do it with anybody. Watch me just plug this dude in, and like obviously you can't. It's not happening. Like this team, they look bad, dude. Stafford, most interceptions in the league right now. Are they a pretender? Are they a contender? I'll call them a pretender for sure. I don't think that offensive line is horrendous. The defense, you can score on them. Unless they're playing the Panthers, they don't look good. Period. So I don't think they're if they do get in the playoffs, it's gonna be because that division isn't so hot and they can sneak in. I wouldn't be surprised at that. But are they really a contender? Are they really gonna make a run this year as currently constructed? No. Are they gonna bring in OBJ? Are they gonna make some changes that can maybe jolt some life into that team? Because right now they don't have it. Cam Akers wants out. It just, like you said, it looks like a mess over there. So right now, I'll give them the pretender label.
Oh, they're definitely. I mean, they're a pretender. They're not a Super Bowl contender at all. So if you think about it, if they get into the playoffs, they're gonna be a 4 seed because they'll win the division. Nobody will be a wild card from that division, so they'll be a 4 seed, and then they're gonna play a team like the Cowboys. And look what the Cowboys just did to them in LA. I mean, and they're gonna and Cowboys are getting stronger, so they would get absolutely stomped in the playoffs. So I don't see the Rams doing anything going forward unless there's some major just culture changes there. And hey, their bye May came at a good time. They're coming off a win. We'll see what happens. See what they can get in return. I mean, they're talking about maybe bringing Christian McCaffrey in. Let's see if that kind of can save them. I don't know, but
behind that offensive line and the injuries McCaffrey's been dealing with, man, go somewhere else.
There's a lot of panic right now in Los Angeles. I mean, talk to their fans too. I mean, there's fans aren't even showing. That game was all.
They don't have fans.
They just won the Super Bowl. Yeah, they just won the Super Bowl, and they can't even get the paid fans to get in their stadium. Like the Cowboys dominated that game. I mean, every time the Cowboys, ran. It
was a home game for the Cowboys. It was a home game.
And they just won this fucking Super Bowl, man. It's just that shows you who the real Rams. I mean, they don't have real fans. When they were making a Super Bowl run, hey, everybody came out.
They're still in St. Louis, I think.
Yeah. So going on to I want to talk about the other Super Bowl because this is on the other side of the spectrum. So the other Super Bowl
there you go.
team is Cincinnati. So they started 0-2, and since then have gone 3-1, and looks like Burrow's waking up a little bit. So This might be the other side of it. Their defense is starting to play ball, and they're starting to get Burrow and Jamar Chase cooking. T. Higgins has been dealing with injury, and I think once he comes back healthy, I think they're going to be a strong contender in the AFC again. I still like Buffalo and KC in that conference a little bit more. But Joe Shiesty, man, he is not somebody, especially in January. Like you don't want to back off this guy. They did take a tough loss to the Ravens that could hurt going forward, but I think they still win that division, and they're going to be tough come January.
Right, and I agree. When it comes to the Bengals, I'm with you, dude. I like their coach. I like their team. Their offensive line. Man, what the hell? They were supposed to have it fixed. It doesn't look to be fixed. But I mean,
It's worse.
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. They got to get it right. The talent is there. I mean, like Lyle Collins, he has proven he can produce in the league. Alex Kappa won a Super Bowl with the Bucks. He actually, I will say, Alex Kappa, he was the worst lineman on that Super Bowl team of the 5, and he actually didn't even play in that playoff run because he was injured. And it was Aaron Stinney who started at right guard, and they ended up paying Alex Kappa down in Cincinnati, and obviously he's not working out so great. Yeah. Right. So the offensive line is still going to be the Achilles heel, man. Everywhere else, though, maybe at corner with Eli Apple, everyone knows that he can get beat. But I mean, their safeties are good. That linebacker is really good. They're deep. They're everywhere. They're good. So I'm with you. They're a contender, and if they get hot, like we seen them last year get hot, and look what happened. They went the distance almost. So that's the thing. They got that. Yeah, they got that dude though, man. Like you said, Joe Shiesty. So for me, yeah, Cincinnati. I know there was a slow start. No, you're not where you want to be ideally, but don't panic. Y'all are some contenders.
Yeah, and then jumping over to the NFC, we have some 3-3 teams over there that were projected. They were playoff teams last year, projected to be playoff teams again this year. Let's start in Tampa, man. This is the one where, I don't want to go into the off the field stuff. I think that is affecting the team right now a little bit, but I don't really want to go into that. I think that Tampa is going to be just fine. I think that they're going to win that division. I think Tom is going to, get them. He'll get them there. As far as Super Bowl contenders, man, I still think they have a really good chance because Tom is a guy, he will win games in January. So no matter how they look, they can go in at 9-8 and he'll find a way to win 3 games to get them to the Super Bowl. That's who Tom has been his entire career. He doesn't need to have the greatest roster to get there. And everybody wants to talk about his off the field issues. Yes, maybe that is affecting him right now. Maybe he's not sleeping as well. I mean, it could be little things like that, but it's still Tom fucking Brady. And it's Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who's healthy now. And, maybe you get Julio healthy and Lenny has shedded all that weight and he's looking pretty good. So the defense is going to come around. People who are starting to knock the Tampa for losing to Pittsburgh, man, that's 1 week. I bet you they come back this week and they probably drop a 40 bomb and blow out whoever they're playing.
Playing Carolina, they're going to get we should take care of that. But I disagree a little bit because to me, Tom, we win that game if Tom plays decent, dude. I think Kyle Trask probably wins that game against Pittsburgh. He played awful, and if he's playing awful, it's not Tom. Tom ain't carrying shit. Tom came to Tampa because of the team around him. That's why he left New England. So obviously, he ain't just dragging anybody. That ain't gonna happen. He's got to play. He's got to perform. He's got to pick his game up. And as a Bucs fan, I'm questioning if that's going to happen. Are these distractions? Because before, the only time he struggled was when he first got to Tampa, and when him and BA, I feel like, had a little clash of system and terminology, whatever you're going to call it. And eventually we turned it over to Tommy and got his system going a little bit. And that's his system with our better players won a Super Bowl. So that's fine. And we kind of gave him his system. Even right now, you want to come back? Okay, what do you want? How much money? Here's a blank check. What players do you want us to sign? We give him everything he wanted, and you're not performing. So if you're not going to perform and you want to wait till January, like I said, Kyle Trask could have got that win. So as a Bucs fan, dude, I'm frustrated with him more than anybody else Godwin was wide open several times where Brady missed him. Brady, you're out going to Robert Kraft's wedding instead of going to a practice right before a big game. So like, um, I don't know, dude.
Robert Kraft's getting married. Was he like?
Yeah, he got a surprise wedding on a Friday night, and Brady doesn't travel with the team. He's VIP all this, and then he's cussing out his offensive lineman. It's like, dude, they didn't. You missed a throw. How about we take some accountability here, buddy,
Yeah,
Mister
yeah, that's
Goat
true.
man? Like you're missing throws, you're not making plays, and you're over here screaming at your offensive lineman. So I'm not gonna do it. I'm Brady. Kyle Trask could have got us to 3-3. I'll say that. So if you needed to deal with all this shit, you could have dealt with it and took some time off, saved some lumps, and maybe Kyle could have got a little bit better during this time. So um, yeah, dude, we're more than just in Tom Brady, and he's not playing that great right now. Our defense has been playing good. We have a great wide receiver tandem, and they're not being used. They're like I said, Godwin's wide open several times. You throw the ball to Mike Evans, your best offensive player, 4 times. Like that's on. At the end of the day, you're taking the snaps, you're throwing the ball, you're making the decisions, and you're not throwing to this guy. My brother brought it up like. Maybe it's Brady's ego. Maybe he saw Mike Evans starting to get too much credit for the offense being successful, when he's in there, we do good. When he's not in there, we do bad. And he's like, maybe Brady just wants to throw to Godwin now, so Evans doesn't get all the credit,
Mm.
And I'm like, I don't think it's that. I don't, Brady's not that kind of guy. He just cares about winning. But man, if you cared about winning, then you need to invest in it a little bit. And it's hard because of everything that's going on off the field. Apparently, that's what everyone's talking about. So, but yeah, that's the biggest thing. I don't think it's so much the Bucks, because if I look top to bottom, I look at that roster. Call me a homer, whatever. I see one of the better rosters in the game. But Tom Brady, obviously, we won a Super Bowl because he played at a high level. I'll say in the playoffs, he threw some interceptions on our Super Bowl run. He didn't play great, but he played great during the regular season. He played great for the 3 years that he's been with us. So he raised the confidence of everyone around him. And right now, he's not playing to his standard. So like, is this it? Is he thinking about retirement? Is he thinking about family? Like, is he, whatever? I think I agree with you when push comes to shove. Like he made a decision to come back, and I think that he's gonna lock in. But when the fuck are you gonna do that, man? Like when? Week 10, week 12? When's it gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think out of the three teams that we're about to talk about, Tampa, we're going to talk about Green Bay and San Francisco here in a second. I think out of those three teams, I think going forward, I think they have the best chance to turn it around, only because I think they have the better roster. Uh, you're right. I don't know these things about Robert. I don't follow Tom Brady like all these other people do. I see what I see on Sunday, and obviously over his career. And he's one of those guys that will have a really bad week and then turn around and have a really good week. He's some of the games they lost against KC, and I mean KC is a good team. So I mean that was going to be that's a flip a coin type games. Yeah, and I mean that really wasn't Tom. I mean if you look at that game, it really wasn't Tom, and it's a fumble. It was a fumble on the opening kickoff type
Right,
things.
for
They put
sure.
you behind. So
Tom, that was his best game of the season, honestly.
against Pittsburgh, man, like yeah, you could put the blame on him. I mean, you can put the blame on whoever you want. I think they're going to figure it out. I think they have the best chance to figure it out. I in February we were talking about how Tom wasn't going to play this year, and then a couple weeks later, here he is, and he's back, and Super Bowl champs and Super Bowl contender. Well, and all the stuff with his wife is coming out, and I really don't agree when we talk about people's personal lives in that matter, but the news likes to butcher that shit. And when you put a guy's name in the news that much, it could affect him. And I think he's still human, and it's affecting him a little bit. The Robert Kraft thing, going to his wedding, like yeah, you need to be with your team on a Friday. I don't give a shit like how long he was your owner, how he's your best friend. I don't care. Like you have a job to do, and you should have been there on Friday. And travel with your team, and especially as their commander, dude, you have to go in and lead them to war. But leading right into another quarterback, another legendary quarterback who's struggling right now is Aaron Rodgers, and he just announced that this is his last year, and
Dude.
and the passion for football doesn't seem to be there right now, and I don't know what's going on in Green Bay. They just lost handily. That's probably the worst loss I've seen Green Bay take it home maybe ever. You know, if you want to think
To
about
the
it, they got their
Jets.
ass kicked. They got their ass kicked. And I mean, you see Sauce Gardner wearing the Chiefs. I mean, they kicked their ass. And physically, mentally, emotionally, they just took them to the woodshed, dude. And that seems to be a trend with Green Bay this year. And you know, they lost to the Giants in London. I mean, that was a game. I mean, London's are kind of, those are anybody's kind of game too. But to lose to the Jets that they did at Lambeau, and you know, seeing how Aaron Rodgers is still like, oh, my rookie receivers, and this is, well, at what point are you going to put the blame on you? You're not playing that well. And this is what we're talking about with Tom too. Like, well, at what point do we put the blame on Aaron?
Right, and he's no shit. Like from a fantasy aspect, his high is 16. I think he scored 16 3 or 4 times, but he just can't get past that 16-point mark.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Aaron Rodgers here, 4-time MVP here, right? And man, don't look like it. I could give a suggestion: use Aaron Jones.
They need
That
to
was-
use the
that
other
was one
Aaron.
that-
Yeah.
Right, utilize him. But man, for him to come out and say that at this point in time, like nobody expected this to be your last season. You just signed an extension, and you knew Devontae was leaving. You still chose to stay. You know, LaFleur, like we've said, he's won 13 games every year. So I didn't expect Aaron to say this right now, and to say it right now. How do your teammates feel about that? Like what is that supposed to mean? Are you just you lost your passion? Like, are you going to compete the same? Like, obviously, so for them, are they contenders? Are they pretenders? It's a tough one.
I definitely put him as a pretender, man. I mean, like I said, they just got their ass kicked. And you know, week 1, call me a homer, but they got their ass kicked in week 1 too. I mean, they're teams that are just whooping their ass right now. And everybody thought Green Bay was going to be a 14-3, you know, 13-4 at worst type team, and they are not. They are a 9-8 team right now, if that. And you know, they might sneak into the 7th seed in the playoffs. But I mean, they just lost the Giants. Now they're technically 3 games back of the Giants, you know, in that wild card spot. And it's just, if it comes down to that, you know, they're going to be asked out. So Green Bay is the team that, do we believe in Aaron to figure it out? Yeah, we do. You know, we think that he's going to figure it out. I think LaFleur is a good coach, and I think he'll figure it out with Aaron Rodgers. Their defense is pretty decent. When they play well, they're actually one of the elite defenses. When they play well, they haven't really played well except for against the Bears. So, do I think they find their way into the playoffs? I do, as a 7 seed, because all these other teams that are struggling right now, I think that they have a better defense and they're better coached. But Aaron's got to figure it the fuck out, dude. And I respect the guy. You know, I think he's a good quarterback, but he's starting to lose his marbles a little bit. And like Tommy, he's starting to blame everybody else. And at what point are you going to look in the mirror and say, hey, I got to play better?
Right. You're the leader, man. You've been the best player, 4-time MVP. Time to get back. You were just MVP last year. I mean, you can't drop off that much just because of one player's gone. So I'm not going to say they're a pretender, though. Like, I look at the NFC, the landscape of the NFC, and I think my squad is the best, top to bottom. Obviously, we've been dealing with a few things. You got who's the best record right now? The Eagles, the Vikings. So those are probably the top 3. And then who else? We're talking like the Niners, the Rams, like some of these teams. They're not looking good. Most of the teams are dealing with stuff. So the Eagles have kind of separated themselves as the clear number 1 team in the NFC. So, like, do I think that the Packers can beat them, though, if they match up and they're both playing at their best? That's tough, man, because those corners actually match up really well with the Packers, and that's their one thing is how they're going to get separation against those guys. And but I like the Packers, man. I really do. I like their offensive line. I like their defensive line. I like their like Rashawn Gary's been balling for them. They got Jair Alexander. So
it's the passion right now, dude. Like, the passion doesn't seem to be there,
yeah.
and they're getting their, but
I think
they're getting their ass beat.
LaFleur needs to take over, man, dude. Like, I saw on that 1 4th down call, like he basically was like, what do you want, Aaron? And Aaron went to that back shoulder to Lazard, dude. That's not Devontae anymore, and that's
Mhm.
clearly an Aaron call and not a LaFleur call, dude. Like, get creative with your best offensive player. That's 33 Aaron Jones, and start calling plays, dude. Aaron, he can run an offense. Let him be like a game manager almost. Run the ball, play good defense, and take shots when you need to. That team is too good though. And then it is Aaron Rodgers. I think that they are going to turn around, and all they got to do is get hot at the right time. Yeah, right now it ain't pretty, but if they get some momentum going at the right time, I ultimately do think that they are a contender.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say now is, I mean, we're starting to see, with Tommy and Aaron, I mean, we're starting to see the emergence of the new quarterbacks. I mean, every generation has it. So when we had Joe, it kind of went into Steve Young, and we started to see the rotation of the new quarterbacks. So I mean, with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, I mean, you name it, I can name 7 right off the bat that are just playing better ball right now. Jalen Hurts, I mean, they're all playing better ball right now. I think we're starting to see the retirement talks, and we're starting to see the evolution of the new quarterbacks. So I mean, these teams are just playing better, and so Green Bay, you still need your quarterback to play at an elite level, and back-to-back MVP. I don't believe he should have been MVP last year, but back-to-back MVP, and he's not playing at that level at all right now. So without him, I don't put him in a contender spot. They need him to play Aaron Rodgers ball for them to be a contender. And out of 6 weeks, he hasn't done it once. So the games that they've won has been Aaron Jones and that defense. But going into another team in the NFC, San Francisco. Now this team, they have the best football player in the world in Deebo Samuel. So I mean, you would think that right there they'd be a contender. Inside joke. I don't really believe that. Yeah. This team is actually now. I think that this is a different story because they're dealing with a lot of injury. They haven't had Nick Bosa a week or two. Hufanga now has a concussion. I mean, you name it. Trey Lance, I mean, out for the season after 3 weeks. I mean, you talk the Jimmy G, saga. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in this organization right now. It's not real. These are things that it's hard to deal with as an organization. Do I think they have one of the top 5 rosters in football when they're healthy? Yes, I do. But that's not the case right now. So I think that because of that reason, they're going to struggle down the stretch. And, you've kind of shown it. They do kind of own the Rams. So, I mean, and the Rams aren't playing well right now either. So, that division, who knows what can happen there. I think all the teams are 3-3. I think maybe the Cardinals are 2-4. So can they be the ones that emerge out of the pile of shit? Yes, they can. But because they are better rostered, and if they get some guys back, they can probably contend. But as of right now, they're just devastated with injury, and going forward, doesn't look to get much better.
Yeah, man, Atlanta just kind of kicked the shit out of them. Marcus Mariota was perfect for the first like half and almost 3/4 of that game. He didn't have incomplete pass. It was balling. So, and it's the Falcons. Nobody expected that. That Niner defense was really good, but they're missing Bosa. He was just out. They lost their corner. Was it Mosley for the season?
Emmanuel Mosley's out for the year. I think he's a safety. Isn't he a safety? Jimmy Ward, I think, just broke his hand. There's their other corner, I mean, isn't even back yet. Their other safety, I think, just Hufanga just got hurt. Bosa's out. Their D tackles, I think, out for the season now. I mean, their defense is just devastated with injury. Not to mention Trey Lance, and then Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, they got Warner. I know Bosa was like, it's not nothing big for Bosa,
serious,
so he should be back soon. They still got Fred Warner. That Chardavius Ward has been doing really good in the secondary. So as long as they can hold the fort down for a little bit, if they get some guys back, they've actually been without Trent Williams too. They get Trent Williams back here soon. They get they got Kittle, they got Debo, they got Ayuk, and they got Jimmy. Hughes check, that fullback is legit, man. So they honestly, I think they're a contender. I think they're gonna get some guys back, and I could see them. Honestly, what I've always said about Niner fans is the Jimmy thing. I said you're not like he's gonna win you games, he's gonna contend, you're gonna win games with Jimmy, but when you get to the big games like against the Eagles or against the Bucks, a fully healthy squad, some of these teams you're gonna have to in NFC is not as deep. Even the Cowboys, though, if they Dak gets rolling, that's a deep team, a good team, a complete team. So Jimmy's got to play to a certain level that honestly I just don't think he's capable of reaching once you get to a certain point. But he can get you to a championship game. He can get you to the Super Bowl. But then he had to make that one deep throw to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl to beat Patrick Mahomes. And that's what it takes. It takes you reaching that level and making those throws to win those big games. And that's always been the Achilles heel for me with Jimmy. So that's why I don't think they're like a Super Bowl contender. They're a playoff contender. They're going to make the playoffs, I feel, as long as they don't continue to get butchered by injuries. I think they'll be in the playoffs, but I don't see them being like as a serious Super Bowl contender. Just because Jimmy, like I said, like if they do get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be against Burrow, Mahomes, Herbert, Josh Allen, one of these guys. You're going to have to go toe to toe with one of those guys. And even to get through them in the NFC, you're going to have to go through Hurts and the Eagles or Brady and the Bucks, more than likely. So I would think I just don't think that he's going to have enough to get past those guys, but he can get there and he can get that team there, and I think he can. So they're like right in the middle of a pretender and a contender.
Two more teams that I want to bring up because they were division winners for me going into this year. And you haven't mentioned them once as a strong NFC contender, and that's the Vikings, man. And I'm gonna be a homer for a second because we're kicking people's asses right now, and we're finishing games, and we're looking better than the Bucks. We're looking better than the Packers. We're looking better than Frisco. We're looking better than the Rams. The only team that kind of took us to the woodshed was the Eagles, and the Eagles, I think, are probably the top team in the NFC, and they're looking like it offensively and defensively, and I think they're going to continue it. Right now, if you ask me for my NFC pick, it's going to be the Eagles because they are the best team in the NFC. Maybe up. I mean, them and the Bills might be the best two teams in football. But Minnesota, take that game away, and they're coming back and they're winning games, and they're doing it in a fashion where they're playing efficient football. I mean, Kirk Cousins started that Bears game like 19 for 19, which was a record for Minnesota. Dalvin Cook hasn't really been getting going. Justin Jefferson now is starting to rock. But the defense on the other side of the ball, the defense has made the stops when they need to. And they have a lot of good players. Patrick Peterson's playing his best ball he's been playing in the last couple of years. Harrison Smith's playing good ball again. Cam Bynum and Cameron Dantzler, the two Cams, man. I mean, these are kids that nobody ever talks about. Cam Dantzler is playing out of his mind. I mean, most improved defensive player in my book. Nobody's looking at this kid, but he stole the ball out of a kid. I mean, he's playing out of his mind. And I'm not going to sit there and say they're a Super Bowl contender because they're not. They're not going to walk into Philly and beat them. They're not going to walk into Tampa and beat them in the playoffs. It's not going to happen. I understand that. But as of right now, they are going to win the North. They're the best team in the North. They're going to win the North. And, they'll probably go in as a 1 or 2 seed, or not a 1, but they'll probably go in as a 2 seed. And I see them finishing 13-4 and being a 2 seed.
Maybe. I'm not I just don't like. I guess I didn't bring them up because I don't see them as a serious threat. Dantzler is balling though. I'll give you that for sure. But even then, like Patrick Peterson, like when it comes time, is he gonna stop AJ Brown? He already showed no.
Well, he stopped AJ Brown. They didn't stop Devontae Smith.
Right. Either way, so, somebody he didn't. That was a mismatch when they matched up. So and then they just beat the third string quarterback on the Dolphins. They did beat the Packers, but Packers always give up week 1. I don't know. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat. I feel they play the Lions too. You guys beat them. I don't know. I don't know the schedule exactly. I obviously don't pay attention to them as much, but I just same thing kind of with Jimmy, with Kirk. I don't think he's gonna beat those guys. He's better than Jimmy. I'll say that for sure. But if Tua's playing in that game and he's healthy in the Dolphins, like the Dolphins the same Dolphins that were 3-0, that game would have been a little bit different. Even a healthy Teddy, he didn't practice all week. He comes in and that was still a close game. There always seem to be close games.
It wasn't that close. It seemed like it was close. It wasn't.
Right.
I didn't watch. Make it close. Yeah.
But I just like I don't know. That could just be me. That just like I said, when we went through all these contenders, they didn't even come up in my mind. And I'm not even trying to be a hater. Like that's just the general thing. Like with Kirk Cousins, with that team, I just don't. I really don't see them as a legit serious contender. They can win the North for sure. I could say that just because the Packers started slow, but I still think the Packers are a better team.
Yeah, and we'll beat them in Green Bay too, and we match up well against them. We're a better football team, and I get it. You don't follow the Vikings, and I said this preseason, we're going to win the North, and you laughed at me, and I get it. I understand it, and as of right now, they're the second best team in the NFC, and maybe they're playing against third string quarterbacks and stuff like that, but you know what? They're going on the road. They're winning the games that you're supposed to win. And they're going home and they're not losing at home either, So, and when you go into Minneapolis, man, you better bring your earbuds because they get loud and they have one of the best home field advantages in all of football. And right now, I think if San Francisco or Tampa has to go into Minnesota in the playoffs, I would say Minnesota's going to win that game. I mean, as of right now, I would bet money that they would win that game in Minnesota. If that game's in Tampa, if that game's in San Francisco, if that game's in Philly, on the road,
give a shit where it is. If we are healthy, we're whooping that ass.
And I strongly disagree. And I get it. I think there's a disconnect in Tampa right now, and they can figure it out. But at some point in this season, Minnesota's going to get some respect on their name. And I mean, we have Arizona coming out of the bye, and of course, like everybody's going to say, oh well, they haven't played anybody. Well, they're going to end up like 10-2 at some point in the season, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, Minnesota is actually playing well."
Yeah, well, even the NFC, man. You look at the Eagles. I just saw their schedule, and dude, you don't see another potential loss until like week 13 or something like that. They're favored to win all of their game.
But they did smack Minnesota. They smacked Dallas, and they're going to continue to win.
Like just because their record, just because the Eagles are probably gonna have the best record. Well, I don't know.
They have the best team in the NFC.
NFC Beast is pretty good though too. They got to play the Giants twice. They got to play the Cowboys twice. So the NFC, I don't know. Whoever has the best record, to me, the best teams are kind of in the AFC right now. So like even then, I don't I see the Bills, the Chiefs, and these guys as the real contenders. Some of these NFC teams they're really good teams, but I don't know if they can reach the level, right? So
that's a good point. That's a good point because the Bills have to be the favorite to win the championship right now. They have to, especially going into KC and winning that game the way they did. They have to be the favorites. I mean, they were everybody's favorites before the season, and now they're just showing that they are the best. If they add Christian McCaffrey, hand him, dude, just hand it to him. I mean, at this point, just fucking hand it to him because that's the one thing that they don't have is they don't have like a really big playmaker other than Josh Allen as a running threat.
But they don't. That's. I want to get on that real quick. I don't know. To me, it's kind of are you even going to use McCaffrey? Because your best player is still Josh Allen at the end of the day, and him throwing downfield is one of his best attributes. What are you going to have him checking it down for?
But those little 6 and 7 yard dump downs, he might break
more tackles than CMC does.
But those 6 and 7 yard dump downs, a Singletary will turn into 15, 30, 55 yard touchdowns. It's that big of a difference at running back because they do look at Singletary out of the backfield quite a bit. James Cook hasn't progressed yet, so you add, and he does dump those downs. I mean, there's games where Singletary has 6 receptions for 36 yards. Well, those 6 receptions now turn into, 89, 100-yard games with touchdowns because McCaffrey is still that dude. I think he's starting to, you said last week against the Rams, he's starting to show his burst again. He's starting to show McCaffrey again. And, if they're looking to trade him, if the Cardinal or the Panthers are looking to trade him and it goes to the Bills, it goes from the worst team to the best team. Just imagine how much better he's going to look then. I mean, it's just, the Bills are already my pick because I think that they're the smart pick. But yeah, you talk about, anybody in the NFC going into Buffalo and winning that game. That's not going to happen. Nobody in the NFC is going to go into, they're not, it's going to be in Arizona. They're not going to go. Yeah. I mean, but nobody can beat a healthy Buffalo team. Nobody they're the best in the NFL. They're the best team. But as far as the NFC, man, like there's going to get to a point to where people are like, hey, this Minnesota team's actually pretty good. They're well coached. They're playing with passion. And, they're actually pretty talented. Imagine that, like having a good coach and having a good a general manager and having faith in your team and having connection. Imagine just how much of a difference that can make. And, at some point they'll start earning respect. And as of right now, I know they don't have any, but they will. They'll get it. They'll get there.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not on the train just yet. Maybe one day.
Yeah, I mean, you've never been on the train, so get on, and hold on tight because we're gonna make some splashes. I don't think we're gonna win the Super Bowl, man. I'm not jumping off that bridge. It's just I have a lot of faith in my team.
Depending on who the matchup is too in the first round, just depending on who it is, we'll see. And I didn't even on my predictions. I didn't even have them in there. Honestly, like I had the Cowboys as my last team, as my wild card team in there. Fucking the Rams and the Saints are the two that look like they my two picks that look like they might not make it. So the Vikings might take one of their wild card spots or win the North, and the Packers get the wild card. Either way, so far obviously their record says it. But it's third of the way through the season. What are we through? Week 7. So yeah, a little over a third of the way through the season.
So if you look at but I mean, they're 3 games up in that division. And they still get to play the Lions and the Bears again. They play the Cardinals, and they play the Cardinals at home. That's 3 games I think they can easily win. They do play the Bills on the road. That's going to be probably a big fat L. And then you go into the Green Bay week 17. I mean, that could be a loss also. I mean, in December, that's a tough place to play. I just think that, again, like our D tackles, I mean, we have playmakers. Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter are playing out of their minds, and no one's talking about it. No one's talking. So I just want to talk about it first. That's all I wanted to do was talk about it for a second. Our defense is playing out of their fucking minds and getting the stops when they need to play, or get the stops. And not to mention, I haven't even said Justin Jefferson, who, Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson in the same breath are the best receivers in football. So, I just want a little bit of respect. Kirk Cousins is actually playing pretty well. When he plays, Kirk Cousins, and he just said something. He's like, we're not even playing our best, and we're 5-1. So there's that. And I believe him, and I see the passion, and I do follow him. I see it after. I see the post games, and Kevin O'Connell. I love this fucking guy, and I said it when we hired him. This was the right call. I said it before we hired him. It was the right call. And it's just everything's showing out. And I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, I'm right. I'm going to sit here and say, hey, I believe in this team. And I'm obviously a homer. I'm a Vikings fan, just like you're a Bucks fan. Your team's playing like shit and you still believe in them. But I believe in this team. I believed in them when we got the coach. And
my team's not playing like shit. My quarterback's playing like shit. Tom Brady's playing like shit.
Well, when your commander plays like shit, your entire team, is gonna come down to it. But they're on this list for a reason too. So anyway, I just think that if we're gonna talk about contenders or pretenders, they are going to win the North. I mean, I will put my life savings on that. They're going to win the North. They're the best team in the North. They are a better roster. I've been saying that they're a better roster than the Packers overall, and they have a better home field advantage now. They're a better team, and they might, like, LaFleur's a good coach, but that was the one thing that Minnesota
field advantage than the Packers than Lambeau. That's a pretty gnarly home field advantage. Come playoff time.
Are you seeing, dude? The Vikings fans are traveling now too. I mean, you see that Dolphins game. I mean, I know it's the Dolphins, but you see that Dolphins game. I mean, they were pretty loud, and they were doing the skull chant, dude. And I'm telling you, it's starting to come together, and they're going to be a good team for a long time. Adam Thielen's, kind of going on his way out, but I think KJ Osborne is another player that can step right into his boots, and there's a lot of young talent that no one's really talking about. And that Cam Bynum, man, he's playing safety after Lewis Cine went out. Lewis Cine was going to be another guy, and we lost him to a pretty devastating
Brian
injury.
Dawkins 2.0.
Well, he honestly, I still believe that, but he suffered a pretty serious injury, and I pray for the kid because it may be something that he may never play again. But you know, I hate to say that, but it was really, really bad, and it's going to be career altering anyway. But that kid was a fucking murder scene, and he liked to hit. So prayers to him. But Cam Bynum, man, no one's talking about this kid, and he is again, dude. Again, no one knows this, but these guys are fucking falling out of their mind.
Well, they do now because he said it 18 times in the past 5 minutes. So you guys know that they're winning the goddamn North. All right, put it in the fucking bank.
North.
Bet your life savings on it right now.
We're winning the North. Put some respect on their fucking names, man. I just want a little bit of respect. That's all.
No, dude, and
my entire life, all I want is a little bit. I think I've earned a little bit this year. Just a little bit. And everybody wants to keep disrespecting me, calling me a fluke, calling the Vikings a fluke. Give me a little bit of respect because they're 5-1 and they're balling. They're balling, and this is the best they've looked since Kirk's been at the helm. And they're not even playing their best football. So Dalvin's not even looking that great. So give him a little bit of respect is all I'm asking.
Hey, man, I'm just sitting here letting you keep going, man. I'm giving you your moment. You want to bring them into the light? Here they are.
Well, they're in the light. They're in the spotlight. I mean, they're already there. They're number 4. They're number 4 on NFL's power rankings.
That's right. That's right. Ahead of the Bucks because they suck. Ahead of the Sucks.
Head of the Sucks. Head of the Tampa Bay Sucks, man.
Oh shit. So we got any other teams on the contender list, or is that it?
You know,
Miami's 500.
I didn't mean to. Not Miami. I think
we get into Baltimore too. We didn't get into Baltimore either.
Yeah,
right?
Baltimore. Yeah, those are teams that are, they might find their way into 7.
I said what I said about the Vikings. Who cares about these other fucking teams?
No, I like the Ravens. The Ravens can pick it up. They've dealt with injury too. They've given up leads. If they can figure out how not to give up leads, I mean, they have the iciest kicker ever. So I mean, if they're in close games, they're going to win. So. Lamar has played, he's playing MVP ball right now.
I'll say it right now. They're not a contender. Lamar, he's not a contender. Not in the AFC. You see those other quarterbacks that actually play quarterback a little bit better. They're not contenders. I'm sorry, Ravens. I've never been a Lamar guy. He's worth the money. He's going to win the games. He keeps you guys relevant. He's a hell of a fantasy player. But is he ever going to win a Super Bowl? Honestly, unless that team, that roster just gets loaded up around him, then no. And he's going to keep them too good to do that. So I don't think the Ravens, honestly, with Lamar and Harbaugh, they're going to win games. They're going to be contenders for playoff spots every year. But Super Bowl contenders, for me, no.
I think the AFC team, because the AFC team I think would be more relevant right now would be the Chargers. They're 4-2, and they're not playing good ball. They're not well coached
without Keenan Allen.
Yeah, without Keenan, but that's my point. Without Keenan Allen, J.C. Jackson got benched. Joey Bosa's been out. So if you start seeing some of the stuff, but Derwin James doesn't get enough credit. Khalil Mack's actually playing really, really well. Adam Tranquil, I think is his name, is playing. Did you see that game against the Broncos? He was lighting shit up all over the field. So they're playing really, really decent ball. I mean, they're beating teams that they should beat, Texans and Broncos. So
they're contenders. They're contenders. I got them as contender all day.
But Justin Herbert has not been playing good ball, and this kid is capable of so much more.
But he's not playing slop. He didn't. Everyone's giving him shit because he had the most completions in history without throwing a touchdown pass or something like that. I think it was 50 or something. Either way, but dude, he's taking what they give him, and they got Surtain. They got good. Their corners or safeties in Denver are pretty good. So he was just he played a clean game. He played a game to win. Sometimes you got to manage at that position. It's not always going to be highlight reel stuff, but I trust them, man, because of that guy.
Well, no, what I mean is not even that game, but he just hasn't been up to Justin Herbert standards. And, he's going to get there. He doesn't have his number one target. And you're starting to see Eckler get going. When Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, I mean, that's a duo that nobody really talks about that much, but that's a really damn good duo. And their defense is, but I think that they can be a contender. I had them actually in the Super Bowl, or I'm sorry, the AFC Championship game against the Bills, and I kind of was flipping a coin between them and the Bills. Now with the injuries and now seeing the difference in coaching, I definitely have the Bills going to representing the AFC. But Chargers are a team that, can give the Chiefs some fits in that division. And, that's the one team that should be on this list. As far as Miami's concerned, they have a very good offense. Their coach is up and coming. I see them finishing, 10-7, 9-8, something like that. Not a bad, again, a 7 seed.
A possible playoff team, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of those 7 seeds floating around in the AFC. As far as the Chargers, I mean, they should be put in. A couple weeks ago, we were, hey, are you panicking? And they were, and they've responded. So now we got to see where they go from here. And I think the Chargers are actually a team that are going to progress in a winning way rather than a losing way.
I agree, dude. The Chargers, Herbert, like once he starts getting it going, like in it, the receiver position has shown how valuable it is, dude. Like when we didn't have a few weeks ago, didn't have Julio, didn't have Mike Evans, didn't have Godwin, and our offense couldn't move the ball like at all.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Gage had like all the targets and all the looks, and like it just shows that position, dude. And even look at the difference between the Eagles with AJ Brown, without AJ Brown.
Yeah, exactly.
You get a legit wide receiver, it makes a huge difference. So for me, speaking of that, the Dolphins, dude, they just got a huge wide receiver too, and that offense all of a sudden is dangerous. But as a complete team, I just don't see them. They're a playoff team potentially, but Super Bowl, hell no. Like when it comes time to Herbert, like to me, Herbert, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. Honestly, unless you got one of those 4 and you that can match that level in the AFC, and I don't see any other ones that really can. It's going to be tough in the AFC to be a legit serious contender.
Yeah. There's those top 4 teams in the AFC, and honestly, I think those top 4 teams are probably one of those 4 teams are going to emerge. And again, I have Josh Allen, kind of in another tier right now. Him and Patrick Mahomes, like that rivalry is going to be fun for a long time. But you throw Justin Herbert, you throw, Joe Burrow, you can kind of throw Lamar in there a little bit. Tua's trying to be like, hey guys, but he's the little brother. He's like, hey guys, can I come with you? I really don't see it yet. And then again on the NFC, you're starting to see like kind of these old vets playing their last year of football. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is Rodgers and Brady's last year, maybe, and you don't see him again. And they kind
I think this last, if they finish these next 7 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever it is, like they started the first 7 weeks, then it's without a doubt you're putting the nails in the coffin of both of those dudes. Unless their teams and their play turn around over this next second half of the season, then yeah, they're definitely going to be done. And honestly, like, man, like I said, dude, like Tommy, like I'm sorry you're going through all that stuff, man, but dude, like, I don't know, pick
it
a
was
side.
His decision.
Like,
it was his decision to come back. It was his decision to come back, and nobody can feel sorry for him. Nobody can. It was his decision.
Right. So, but exactly. So you want to come back, you want to do what you want to do, then fucking do it. Don't flip flop. Don't fucking be halfway in, halfway out. Be all in or go all the way out. The whole flip and saying even just saying that with Tom Brady, like, is like you never even
crazy
had that. He's always been all in. So the fact that we're even having that conversation, to me, I say it's definitely his last year for sure. So make it a good one, man. You might as well not go out like this. Go ahead and make it your last year. But same with Rodgers, dude. Like, you guys want to sharpen up. It's not going to – their legacies are set, right? They're defined for life. They're both, like, no matter how they even if they lose the rest of the games this year, which they won't, their legacies are going to be good. But this ain't how you're going to want to go out, man. It's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth before you retire, man. You want to go out at least playing good football. You don't have to win a Super Bowl, but at least play some good football, man.
Yeah, that was a bad taste last year. Was the loss of the Rams was bad taste in his mouth, and he wanted to come back, and well, now it's kind of looking even worse for him. But I do have faith that he'll come back and he'll get that team together, and they can make a run. They're in probably the worst division in football, so they're definitely going to win the division and move forward.
Maybe it's the NFC West actually. Fuck.
Well, at least the NFC West has some wins.
Falcons just beat the dog shit out of the Niners.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but Carolina's the worst team in football. Atlanta, no one's scared of Atlanta. And the Saints, I mean, they're not playing good ball. They have some young weapons there, but let's just say that Tampa should be the clear favorite in that division, where the West doesn't have. I mean, it's still competitive. I just, it is what it is. But anyway, guys, those are our contenders and pretenders. I mean, you're going to disagree. I mean, a lot of people are going to disagree with me about the Vikings. I can already feel once Josh and Danny watch this, I'm going to be hearing about the Niners and all this other stuff. But let's know what you actually think. Let's. I know people think that I'm a homer and the Vikings or something, that I'm just trying to make them relevant. Let us know what you think, and put a comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe our page. Follow on Facebook. Find us on Instagram. Let's get a little bit more interaction going. Some comments below, and let us know what you think. Again, hit subscribe. Until next time, A2D.